You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Homefield Apparel. And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another special edition episode of the Assembly Call, brought to you by our friends at Homefield Apparel. As you know, they have the world's largest and best selection of vintage collegiate apparel printed on the softest and most comfortable fabrics. You can knock out your entire Christmas list in one place. Go to homefieldapparel.com, use our promo code HOME23, and get 15% off your first order. That is HOME23 at homefieldapparel.com for 15% off your first order. Okay, well, we'd planned to have something special for you today. Hopefully we still will, here with Indiana's second December Big Ten game coming up tomorrow in Ann Arbor. The plan was to talk through that with our buddy Ant Wright. We set it up on Friday. Haven't heard from him yet today. He's got the link and everything, so hopefully he'll still show up. We'll see how that goes. Hey, miscommunications happen, so maybe something happened there. Hopefully everything is all good on his end. But either way, we have here with us also the man behind IU Film Room in our Assembly Call content, Coach Tony Adragna. Tony, how are you doing, man?
I'm fantastic. It's Good Monday. Signetti still got me fired up, and IU win over Maryland still got me fired up, so I'm ready to go.
I know, and Signetti, I saw he posted a picture earlier today of him at the office at 5:30, and then said on the radio, I think that he had already been there for an hour. So I think who got there first, him or Gabe Cups for his breakfast club? What do you think?
Good question.
Two of them will probably bump into each other. Yeah, they'll probably bump into each other a lot. All right, Tony. So we've got a big game coming up on Tuesday. We're recording this on Monday afternoon. Indiana plays at Michigan on Tuesday. That game is at 9 o'clock Eastern, so it's the first real late tip of the season for Indiana. That game is on Peacock, so make sure that you have your Peacock subscription. If you don't want to, pony up for the subscription and you just want to listen, the Varsity app does a really nice job of providing the radio feed. So you can get the Varsity app and then you can listen to Fish. But if you want to actually watch it, you want to watch it on Peacock. And I will just offer this little bit of this Peacock tip, which kind of stinks. But I guess, like Tony, in a normal DVR situation, say you're 10 minutes late, you would turn it on. And if you've been recording it, you could rewind to the beginning. That is not the case here. It does not work like that. If you're late to the game, you
completely on demand.
Yeah, completely on demand, and they don't put them on demand right away. You have to wait sometimes several hours afterwards. So just beware of that. A little bit of a different experience there on Peacock. But that game is on Peacock. Indiana is 1-0 in conference play, obviously, after beating Maryland. Michigan has yet to open up Big Ten play. On Saturday, they played at Oregon, lost that game in overtime 86-83. So this will be their first Big Ten game. Their second one is then on Sunday against Iowa. But it's interesting, Tony, as we start looking at this matchup, Michigan entered the season ranked number 45 in KenPom. They are 4-4. They've had 2 top 100 wins over St. John's and Stanford. They've lost to 3 teams, ranked 52nd or higher in Memphis, Texas Tech, and Oregon, and they lost to number 138 Long Beach State. But they've only dropped 4 spots since the season started. Indiana, on the other hand, opened the season number 50 in KenPom, has a 6-1 record, and has dropped 19 spots in KenPom to number 69, which is interesting. And, I say that just as kind of a point of reference here on December 4th. We know that those analytics are very noisy early in the season. There's going to be a lot of fluctuation. So I'm not saying that's necessarily an accurate assessment of how good these teams are, but I do think that when you put it into kind of an objective per possession algorithm, for it to spit out that kind of a difference in terms of kind of the relative strengths of these teams, I do find interesting. I'm curious just to get your take on that, and kind of based on what you've seen from Indiana, and I know you haven't watched Michigan as closely, but what you've seen from them, if that makes sense to you, I guess, why the computers are viewing these two teams the way they are.
Yeah, a couple things there to start. First one with Peacock, we're going to have to get on Osterman and all those guys that live tweet the games and ask them to give us a minute delay on their tweets. Streaming, especially on Peacock, seems to be a decent amount behind live action.
Is it really? Okay.
Up to 2 minutes from
from
games that I've watched. So that's something that I would love for them to figure out, because there definitely will be people that are at the games, live tweeting and stuff, and that
And it
would
feels
not be
like they
fun.
weren't quite ready for the live sports streaming yet.
No,
I mean,
working out the kinks like in real time, and especially like what I was curious about today. And sorry, this is a complete side tangent from your actual question, but what I was curious about today is like if they'll have like the bandwidth to get to like withstand an IU versus Purdue, everybody on that app
yeah,
trying to watch that game. Like that is something that concerns me. I have no
I know.
idea if they have the infrastructure in place to support that. I would think and hope they do, but that did kind of strike me today when I was thinking about Peacock. On they gonna have like the bandwidth, or is the whole state of Indiana just gonna hate Peacock because nobody can watch
Yeah,
the IU Purdue rivalry? I guess time will
I
tell.
know.
In terms of your real question, in basketball related, I'm more of a Bart Torvik fan right now because he's got IU at 52 and Michigan at 53, and that's solely
Yeah.
why. Nothing to do with actually how they get their numbers, but
Well,
it's an
and
interesting.
I think Torvik has less of last season stuff baked into his current
Correct.
number, I think is the difference.
Correct. His is more like predictive metrics based. I mean, he explains it. He takes into account like recruiting rankings and all kinds of stuff that Kim Palm doesn't. So I do think Indiana's probably closer to their Bart Torvik rating than their Ken Palm rating, and same with Michigan right now. But like you said, there's so much noise there right now, and it all tends to flush itself out. Both of which are better than Indiana's net rating of.
Well, let's
Uh,
not even talk about the net rating. Good Lord.
we're talking
Was it
triple digits.
137, I think?
Yeah, not great.
Talk about a number that's
Um,
noisy early in the season when they first put it out.
yeah, and it's an interesting one because if you had this conversation with Mike Woodson, he'd be like, "Look, we're 6-1. That's all that matters." He's basically noted as much.
Yes.
Indiana really had some struggles with some pretty low opponents, especially you look at Army, and even Florida Gulf Coast hasn't really proven to be as good as I maybe thought they might be. But Army's 352 in Ken Palm, and for Indiana to really struggle with them, that's gonna hamper you. Louisville isn't very 161. They did get a win over number 70 Maryland, so like they're working in the right direction, but it makes sense when you, like you said, when you look at kind of these predictive metrics for Indiana that they don't see them as very good. When you look at Michigan, as you noted, they've got a couple top 100 wins. They beat St. John's. Their losses, I guess they did lose to a bad Long Beach State team, but the rest of their losses are within about that top 50 of Ken Palm. So, it's hard to say. I think it'll be interesting to see, with Indiana. They obviously haven't played a true road game. They certainly had that neutral site in New York, and then obviously in Indy. So I'm intrigued to see what they look like on the road. But at the same time, the predictive stuff right now is just so hard to kind of flush out and figure out where everything's at.
So let me tell you my concerns heading into this game. And I think most Indiana fans are feeling better about the team after the second half against Harvard and the way they played against Maryland. I certainly think this is a winnable road game. Like Indiana can go up there and win this game. Michigan has some interesting players. Doug McDaniel's off to a great start. Olivier Camois is obviously very good, but they've got a lot of new faces and new places. Working through some of the same role issues that Indiana is. So this is a game Indiana could win. But here are my concerns. One, we saw Indiana, kind of rally around a depleted backcourt with no Xavier Johnson at home against Maryland. And you can kind of do that at home. You've got, Coach Tonsoni, who was there, said the crowd was awesome. That kind of gives you some of that extra juice. You're not going to have that against Michigan. And so, if X can't play, and I'm approaching the game as if X is not going to be able to play, now Gabe Cupps is starting, so a freshman in his first, kind of road battle. And when you look at some of the things that Michigan has done to be successful, number one, it's Doug McDaniel using a ton of possessions, breaking down defenses with his speed and quickness, which has been a problem for Indiana. And then Michigan has used the three-point line very well. They're in the top 50 in three-point percentage, and they're 100th in the country, so they're a little bit above average in how often they shoot threes. And Indiana's three-point defense has been better of late, but they are still susceptible to that. And so you kind of add up some of those things, how does Indiana overcome that then to compete and potentially, be able to win this game? Because those would seem to be all advantages in Michigan's direction.
Yeah, and another one that scares me is Michigan's a really good offensive rebounding team. I think they're in the top 30 in the country, pretty much in offensive rebound percentage. And in Indiana, it does seem, along with their 3-point defense, their defensive rebounding has seemed to get better as well. But Michigan's a pretty elite offensive rebounding team, so that's another thing that does concern me. Especially it seems as though they have struggled to rebound against the teams that do shoot a lot of 3-pointers. You're going to get long rebounds. You're going to get weird positioning on rebounds when teams are chucking it from the cheap seats. And so, that kind of compounds the issue a bit of kind of Indiana's two weaknesses on the defensive end that they've shown. How do they overcome that? I think Indiana does exactly what it has been doing in terms of being able to get to the free throw line at an elite rate. I think number 5 in the country right now in free throw rate, which is outstanding. Michigan is not deep at all. I think on KenPom, their bench minutes is 340th or something in the country. There's only 20 teams or so that use their bench less. So if Indiana can get them in foul trouble, they're gonna get deep into that bench that really doesn't have a lot of experience or time together. And that's how I think Indiana can really kind of control the flow of the game if they're able, especially if you can get somebody in foul trouble like a McDaniel or something along those lines that really kind of neutralizes that loss of Xavier Johnson being able to put ball pressure on. So to me, that's the number one key for Indiana is kind of continue to do what they've been doing in terms of getting the team in foul trouble. Now, on that same coin, Michigan hasn't fouled a lot. Their defensive free throw rate has been pretty low, and some might argue that's because they haven't played a lot of defense. Their defense. Their defense has been pretty susceptible to big games, and so obviously that bodes well for Indiana. Indiana's had an elite front court in Malik and Kel'el, and then you had Mackenzie and Mbako seems to be coming on of late. That can give Michigan fits as well. So to me, Indiana's got to continue to ride what's got them there, and that's, like I said, getting to the foul line, running with that front court, forcing Michigan to do different things. I think Michigan's not going to be afraid to throw out some zone defensive looks, change things up, in terms of how they guard Indiana, in terms of doubling the post, not doubling the post, make Malik think when he catches that ball. They did those similar things to Trace Jackson-Davis when he would catch it in the low post. So, I don't think there's anything unique that Indiana has to do that's different than how they've played this season, but they've got to execute that at a high level, especially on their first road trip.
You're right. I mean, Michigan has not played a ton of defense. They're currently 125th in adjusted defensive efficiency. There's only been one game all season where they've given up less than 73 points, and that was to Youngstown State in a 92-63 or 92-62 victory back in November. And the recipe that teams have used against them, number one, teams are shooting the three really well against Michigan. They're giving up, a percentage of 39.4%, and they're about the national average in terms of the amount of threes teams take against them. Can Indiana take advantage of that, on the road? Obviously, if they're going to do it, it's probably going to need to be guys like Mackenzie and Mbako and Trey Galloway stepping up to do it. And we haven't really seen those guys get going yet, although it feels like Mbako's ready. Like, it feels like he's ready to have like a 4 or 5 3-point game. I don't know if it'll happen here, but that would obviously be big for Indiana. But as you said, the bread and butter is going down low. And, Michigan is not without size. They have Terrace Reed, who I thought really improved last year in his first season. He's a solid defensive player. They also have Trey Jackson, who's, a 6'10" center. And so they're a little bit above average in terms of defending twos, but they don't turn teams over a lot. And that'll be big for Indiana because obviously, Indiana has been susceptible at times to some turnovers. And so that's what's going to be interesting to me. You go on the road, can Indiana protect enough possessions, get enough good shots for Malik and Kel'el down low? Because I think they should have an advantage down there. I mean, Khalil's going to have 2 or 3 inches on whoever tries to guard him. And we'll talk about the Kamwa-Malik Renew matchup in a little bit because I think that's particularly interesting. But to your point, I think the formula is going to look very similar. And the X factor for me is, can Indiana hit 6 or 7 threes? I think if we do, that's where now we're going to have a chance to go steal it. But if we're trying to overcome some of these other issues while kind of playing with one hand tied behind our back, if we're only hitting 3 or 4 threes, that's going to be a much tougher needle to thread on the road, because Michigan, that's been part of the formula for these teams to beat Michigan, is get hot, hit some threes. We just haven't seen enough from Indiana to expect that on the road, but they're certainly capable. And that to me is going to be a big part of whether they can go on the road and win or not.
Absolutely agree. And it's going to come off of those Malik renewed doubles, kick out, extra pass to the opposite wing, and somebody's got to be ready to knock down a shot. As I mentioned in my film room this past Friday, that's where Trey Galloway's, thrived.
Thriven? Thrived.
Yeah. Last season in spot up opportunities, and I think he's going to have those. You've got a guy in Gabe Cupps that's going to be willing to make that extra pass. I think Gabe knows his role, especially in that starting group, is to distribute, get hockey assists, get the ball in the right spots, don't turn the ball over. We were having a conversation offline right before this, like his offensive production has been fairly minimal. Hasn't scored a point since I think early November or mid-November. Yeah. So, I think he's a guy that can kind of get those hockey assists, help get the ball in the right spots. And then, like you said, an Mbako, a Trey, a CJ Gunn, those guys got to be ready to step up and knock them down because they're going to have ample opportunities.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining us now here on the assembly call, our buddy Ant Wright. He played for John Beilein at Michigan, the owner of the Full Ride Network, which, by the way, features Hoosier Illustrated, which is a website that you all should be checking out. They're doing really good work over there. He's one of the best Big Ten basketball follows on Twitter. Lots of spontaneous film rooms and halftime reports popping up for different teams' games that you should check out. But we're excited to have Ant on the show. Ant, sorry, man, you just missed our 15-minute conversation about how Michigan should have been disqualified from the college football playoff for the sign stealing scandal. Would have loved to get your insight on that.
Hey, man, what? Like, it's I don't know. For me, I'm very. I try to be impartial, right? When it comes to different teams and all that, and I've gone to bat for several different teams when it comes to things that have gone on, and I'm like, it's not a big deal. This is a big deal, and all that. Here's where I'm at with. Are we live?
We are live.
We are? Hold on. Let me retweet this.
Okay. We are live. Yeah, we were just filibustering.
My bad.
Until you got here.
But I do want to say, when it comes down to it, honestly, I think it's overblown. And I only think it's overblown because of what the NCAA has said about it. I think it's overblown based off of what already goes on. I think it's a lot of posturing, a lot of low-hanging fruit. We got a few Twitter accounts who turned into Big Ten Sir Yacht. It's pretty annoying. But my two stances are this. The NCAA ruled that the rule is because of financial issues. It wasn't because of the competitive advantage, right? The other thing is that everyone steals signs, right? The issue was how they were stealing the signs. So if at the end of the day, it's about sign stealing, everybody does it. The issue was with how they did it, right? Which was deemed scouting in person is because of financials. You feel me? So I think it was just low-hanging fruit. It's whatever. People are going to find their ways to hate Michigan because it's like hating Duke, right? You find ways to hate Duke. For Indiana fans, you find ways to hate Purdue. You find ways to hate Kentucky. That's just kind of going to happen. If you're Kentucky, you're going to find a way to hate Kansas. You're going to find a way to hate Louisville. So I get it. I understand. Michigan drives a lot of traffic. We have a Michigan website. They did 1.5 million views last month. Do you know why? Yeah, because people love to hate Reed and love Reed. And you know what I mean? It's going to happen. So it's just one of those things where I think when there's an echo chamber and then you have people who hate Michigan, a lot of people hate Michigan, right? And then there's these bigger accounts who are just trolling and railing on Michigan. They're like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so it's just gonna happen. And There's a reason why I've kind of stayed out of the whole thing. Is because I find low hanging fruit like that. I'm just like, yo, like I'm just not like. There's nothing. I'm gonna make jokes about it, but you're not gonna see me like do some of these like 4,000 word essays that you're seeing out here. These fake investigators, like it's absolutely insane. Or I'm not gonna come out with a tweet. Watch out! In 3 days, the NCAA is gonna fly into Indy. I don't know what's gonna happen. Michigan could get kicked off the field at halftime, and Ohio State's gonna come. We never know. Just know if it happens, you heard it here first. Big Ten Suryats. There's like 5 of them. So annoying. So sorry for the rant. Sorry.
That is okay. No,
yeah,
that is
so,
a.
That's my
okay.
one take. That is my one take that you will hear from me in a somewhat serious fashion about the whole sign stealing thing. Is those 2 reasons is why I don't really. It's low hanging fruit. It's not a big deal, and people latched onto it like a leech. But it was because what the NCAA deemed why teams no longer can do it is because they said that it was for financial reasons, not for competitive advantage. And people steal signs all the time. People are just mad on how Michigan did it.
Yeah.
But a kid can get 30 offers 5 days before the portal, and everyone's like, "Yay, it's okay, it's all right." Everybody.
I know. It doesn't make sense sometimes what we get outraged about.
Stupid, but you know what?
It is what it is.
Michigan put themselves in that position because of their success. Like nobody would care if this was one of the lower teams out there. They wouldn't care if this was Tulane doing it, But if it's Michigan doing it, it's a big thing.
It is.
I'm off
it
my
is. All right. Now it's all good, man. Let's turn our attention to the hardwood. That's why we wanted to bring you on. Big game coming up tomorrow night. It's Michigan's Big Ten opener. It's Indiana's second Big Ten game. Looking to keep the momentum going from a good second half against Harvard, a solid win over Maryland.
Yeah.
I want to talk, we want to talk to you about, kind of some of the matchups and what you think the keys are. But I want to start with kind of a big picture Indiana topic. You came on the show in the offseason. I would characterize you as being bullish on the talent of the roster, but worried about how it would all fit together, especially Mackenzie and Mbako, Malik Renew, and Kel'el Ware. What have you seen through 7 games with those guys? Have you changed your mind on that at all?
No, I haven't. But I will say that Kel'el Ware, what Woodson has done with him, amazing job. And I think Kel'el, he never moved that fast last year. He never acted like he gave a shit last year. You saw games this year where he's getting hype after plays. I'm like, he never did this before. He cares. He truly cares. And he understands the importance of him, right? And that's a huge step in the right direction. Malik Renew, I think it's cool to see that he's finding himself as being the alpha on the team. That's cool. Mbako, the way that he's rebounded the last couple games, I think has helped him offensively because he's not just worrying about, I got to score. Then he doesn't get 3 or 4 touches. Now he's frustrated. Then you see him take a my turn shot. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where you have someone who's able to be mentally engaged throughout the whole game because they're trying to get rebounds. If your effort is, I'm going to get this board, you're not thinking about, I haven't shot a jump shot in 3 minutes, right? Thinking about getting this board. Okay, hey, we're live. We're back at it. Hey, boom. We're good. He's scoring around the basket a little bit more. He's not just settling. He's using his size to his advantage, not a disadvantage. Still needs to work on the defensive end, but through 7 or 8 games, we're seeing really good trajectory right now with him. He still has ways to go, but from the first couple games to now, man, it's almost night and day with how hard he's working on the basketball court. He's like learning how to play hard, which is probably one of the bigger things going from high school to Division I basketball. A lot of kids don't know how to play hard. He did not know how to play hard. He's learning, and you could see it with his with his, like, every possession, he started to take every possession personal. He's starting to try to win every possession, not I got to get through this possession so I can go down here and try to get a bucket, right? Or I don't want to work too hard because I'll get tired and I got to come out. He's not worried about that. He's worried about now, not worried about, hey, what do I have to do to get a shot up here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you think it does, as a former athlete yourself, when Mike Woodson, multiple games in a row has kind of come out in the press conference and been like, look, he's a freshman. He's got to learn this. And really, like, I'm not putting any pressure on him, so maybe you guys shouldn't. Kind of something where he's kind of letting Mackenzie, like, just he doesn't have to produce at the level that so many people are thinking he's got to produce at. Yeah. And basically going out there and saying that, he's not saying, Mackenzie, you're a 5-star, you're a NBA hopeful, you got to go score 20 a game, or he's actually going out there and saying, look, he's doing what I expect of him. This is exactly what I expected when he came here. He's got time to grow. It's only November. Like, what does that do for Mackenzie Mbako's mindset when he's kind of he obviously has a coach in his corner, but he's even doing it in like a public manner?
I mean, it's big for him because, look, bro, it's hard to score in college, and it's really hard to be a true freshman and do that in college. Unless you're Zion, unless you're Paolo Banchero, unless you're Chet Holmgren, unless you're some generational type of dude, it takes time. It takes a lot of time. And it's going to take even more time in this conference because I just think this conference is just so well coached, so well scouted that they're going to pick at the littlest things and try to just expose it, right? So I think it's great for him that, like, he's not having that pressure. He's able to go into film and not worried about what outside voices are saying because he knows that the staff has his back. He's not going to throw Mackenzie under the bus. And you know what? Some freshmen may need to be thrown under the bus, but we know that Mike Woodson knows his guys. He's going to talk about certain guys different ways to media or in film or on the court because different guys are wired differently. You can't get on Cups the same way as maybe X, right? You can't get on Malik the same way as you get on Kel'el because they could be totally different. And if you know how to push the right buttons for different guys, you're going to get positive results.
So we asked you that question. You said positive stuff about Mackenzie, positive stuff about Malik, positive stuff about Kel'el.
I hate the backcourt.
Okay, well, let's go. Okay, go. I think we understand why, but okay, let me frame that. Tell us about the backcourt, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
X has got to be better. I know he's hurt, but even when he was healthy, I didn't feel like we were watching a top 4 guard in the league, which I think Indiana fans think he is. I haven't seen that. Trey Galloway, what has he gotten better at this year? Like, I expected him to be like Batman Robin with X. I put in the video, like, I wanted to see him be more like Chase Audige with Northwestern, the way that he was with Boo Buie.
Yep.
Chase Audige was very good on both ends, and he let Boo Buie rest on some non-perimeter threats because Chase was a mother effer getting at it on defense too, right? I think Trey is a better version of Chase Audige, honestly. And I'm not seeing it. Trey's a bit passive. I'm not sure if he's going through something, an injury. I'm not sure if he's trying to conserve energy, knowing that X has not been healthy and he's dealing with – he has Gabe. Gabe is not Jalen Hood-Schifino, right? So Gabe is good in his own right. Gabe's not a mid-first round draft pick either, right? So I need more from Trey. There's the backcourt is just not where it needs to be, especially if you're a team who wants to get to an NCAA tournament and do something in the NCAA tournament. You know that you have to have a good backcourt to do anything in the postseason. I just don't see it. I like Gabe Cupps. I like what he's been. I think he's going to eventually have to do more. I think CJ Gunn is going to be someone who I think Woodson at some point he's going to just have to say, look, CJ, we got all the confidence in you. You're going to have a longer leash. You're going to go out and be 0 for 8. That doesn't matter. I'm still going to play you because he's going to have to play through some things because they're going to need him in February. They're going to need him badly throughout the end of the year. It's just the backcourt is just very, very confusing for me. And they could win games in this conference because of their front court. Their front court has gotten a lot better. The backcourt is not. And I thought, there would be a lot more there in the backcourt. I'm just not seeing the impact that it should have.
I mean, it's a great point, and I think a lot of Indiana fans have noticed even that, since X went out, Indiana has played better against Harvard and against Maryland. Now, that doesn't mean Indiana's a better team without X because, even just for depth purposes and what he brings defensively, but there is something that has happened offensively to this team with him out. And I think part of it is he just really seems to be struggling to figure out what his role was. And we saw this his first year, and then he figured it out late in the year with Trace. We saw it last year. He never got the chance to figure it out because he was hurt. Do you think, like, the issues that you're seeing with X and Trey, does it seem like maybe some veterans that are just kind of struggling to figure out their roles and they'll be able to get it going? Or is there something more fundamental there where you're like, man, I think I just misjudged how good this backcourt could be?
A little bit of both. I think one of the bigger parts of it was, how much they played through TJD last year at all levels of the half court, right? It wasn't just giving him the ball in the post. He got the ball at the elbow. He got the ball at the 3-point line. And sometimes it wasn't to score. It was just to, hey, cut around him because he could hit anybody, anywhere, right? Because he's a really good passer. And it was almost like TJD was like a de facto point guard almost, where it was like, hey, we're going to give him the ball and we're just going to move all these pieces around and he's going to hit someone who has some leverage and maybe you play out of it 2-on-2. You could do a lot of things with that, right? So they have to now be with the big. That's not his thing. As good as Kel'el Ware has been, it's very different than TJD. Very different. Very different type of player. You have Kel'el Ware who's made a few threes. I don't think TJD even shot a few threes, right? Two very different players. One, TJD, he's breaking you down in the mid post, getting to the rim. Kel'el Ware is probably backing you down and shooting a fadeaway jump shot. So it's two very, very different players. Two very different players. And I think when you have guys who have been there for 4 years, being with a completely different big, they have to adjust the same way as Kel'el's having to adjust to them. And I think they're just unsure of each other right now.
And what about the role Malik fills? Because what you described from Trace, Malik is a different player, but he is kind of taking on that role of post facilitator.
Yeah. So Malik is basically he is the guy, in my opinion. I think he's someone who could be on the all Big Ten, probably second team right now. I'd put him. He's probably in that all Big Ten second team range. And, you've seen flashes on how great he's been. And you've seen where in games that he's struggled, that replacement, they've had to keep up, but it's just a much, much different game. I like Renew. I like what they do with Kel'el along with Renew, just to keep some sort of spacing where if Malik is down there, Kel'el's either cutting, he's dunker spot, or he is out on the 3-point line. They're not doing anything crazy with him. And Malik is able to score through 2-3 guys at times, being like 6'7", 6'8", strong lefty. So yeah.
Yeah, with Indiana, they're weird. It's a really weird dynamic, especially in terms of where modern basketball is heading, because they've got Mbako, Ware, and Renew, who all good talents in their own rights. Is there something that Mike Woodson could do to get X or Galloway going to kind of get their confidence up, or just to put the ball in the bucket more, or facilitate more? Because the other side of the coin is like the front court's been so effective playing through them, and then they kind of play that two-man game with Renew and Ware. Sometimes the guards get they're kind of obsolete in terms of their half court offense.
Right.
So is
Get out
there?
the way. Get out the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So is there anything that they could or should do to try to get those guards knowing that in March, if you want to make some noise, or even to get to March, like those guys are going to have to be productive at some point?
Honestly, the only way that I could really say that would be more aggressive in secondary breaks. Allow Cubs to push the ball, allow Trey to push the ball, get the ball up the court, and get in the two-man game right away. Because if you have a lineup where everybody, it's weird. It's so weird. It's so strange. It's so strange. Who's your starting five? Cups, Galloway, Mbako, Renew, and Ware, right?
Yep.
Tell me, who do you not want shooting a three?
Like right now?
Cups and Galloway?
Three. Who do you not want shooting that three? But if they were to shoot it, I don't think you're like, oh, shit, right?
Right.
You have five guys who have the green light still.
Yeah.
But they don't play that way because they're so efficient within 10, 12 feet, right? I think you do need to play a little bit faster. I think Mbako would like that, playing a little bit more up and down. I think I have to ask you, how has Ware's conditioning been? Is he someone who can play 9, 10, 11 minutes, or is he much better in 4 to 5 minute bursts that he comes out?
I think it's a shorter burst for sure, at least thus far. I mean, I've seen him suck a wind a couple times. I think it speaks to talking about figuring out how to play hard, and like it's a different level when you're playing hard, and then getting that conditioning to that level is certainly gonna take some time, but certainly been that 4 to 5 minute spurt kind of guy. Which it kind of leads me to a question I had typed up, because it's almost a philosophical thing that I think is really hard for guys to turn on and off in their mind. Is that Indiana, they play such a defense that is conducive to teams playing slower. I mean, they're essentially playing pack line. They don't call it that, but they're sagging in gaps, and the other teams are taking like 20 seconds off the shot clock. To me, it's such a fundamental shift from, every coach says they want to play fast, they want to get in transition, but when your defense is predicated on like slowing the other team down, for me, that's such a hard thing to turn on and off. Like, it's not like they're running around trapping everybody and getting after with, having defense. It's suck it in. So to me, I was just kind of curious on your thoughts, if you think that's kind of playing into why they aren't getting out in transition, as well as just they're piggybacking back and forth, or jockeying back and forth kind of in those different philosophies.
And that's a great point, because when you're getting out and you're pressuring, you're being aggressive, that forces teams to play faster, take tougher shots. Usually when teams play slower, they take better shots, right? When you're taking better shots, you have much better defensive transition, right? If you take a bad shot, a fast shot, defensive transition isn't as bad, because when you take a crazy shot that nobody on your team expects you to take, guys aren't getting back, guys aren't crashing, guys are in no man's land. By the time the ball ricochets off the rim, it's like, who the hell just shot that ball, right? Next thing you know, the other team is going. So that is a really good point. So it's kind of clashing. It's kind of clashing with, hey, may want to play a little bit faster. Maybe when they get turnovers, they can go, when Kel'el Ware is getting a block, you can go. They have a lot of length, so deflections, you can go. I do want to see Trey get more aggressive. I really do, because I think he has all the ability to. I think it'll open up so much, and it'll take a lot of pressure off of Gabe too, where I think Gabe can really shoot the rock. So if Gabe is more off the ball and Trey's being that guy to facilitate, he's big enough, he's athletic enough, he has the ability to see guys and find guys, and you're going to hit guys who are spotting up in Gabe and Mbako, Renew, Ware, whoever's in trail, whoever's in dunker spot. You have a lot of options, honestly. And I think they have – it's not like they don't have offensively inept guys. They don't have guys who aren't able to shoot. That's not how they're built. But they are someone who knows where the bread and butter is right now. Now, how do you expand on that? I think it's with Trey being more the facilitator, being more the guy, being a bigger player in the pick and roll. So even if they jam you hard, 6'4", 6'5" Trey, athletic Trey, senior Trey, bigger Trey is probably making those tougher passes that Gabe probably uses one or two extra dribbles. By that time, the defense has already regained their stance and position. So, my thing would be Trey. Get Trey the ball in more looks, but they're not having trouble scoring the ball. That's the thing. So it's like, why make changes? But my only wrinkle would be, hey, let's have Trey do a little bit more of what Gabe does, and let Gabe be that guy who's off the ball.
Well, and we saw that against Maryland, and it worked well. I mean, that was probably as good as Trey's played probably since the first game of the season. As we look toward this game Tuesday, Indiana will be playing its first true road game. This Michigan team has been kind of all over the place. They have 2 top 100 wins. They lost to Long Beach State. They've had 4 losses, but it hasn't really dinged them that hard in the analytics yet. When you look at this matchup, what do you think are maybe the 1 or 2 keys that will really kind of tell the story of this game and how it goes?
Personnel-wise, who do you have to guard Doug McDaniel? I think that's going to be big.
That's what we talked about.
Gabe, I mean, that's going to be a tough matchup for him, but I think he's smart enough to guard him. Gabe can also guard Namari, but Namari also does a good job attacking smaller defenders. And can Trey, and you don't want Trey on Doug for a very long time or else he's going to be worn down. Doug probably, inarguably top 5 fastest players in the country with the basketball. He's very hard to guard. But not only that, they played 8 in their last game. Jalen Llewellyn, that was his first game back. 7 guys have the green light. They're one of the best shooting teams in the country, one of the best shooting teams in the Big Ten. Every time they get an open shot, I think it's going in. Like Will Cheddar shooting like 80% from 3 on like 30 attempts or something insane. Terrence Williams is shooting around 38, 39%. Namari is up there too. Doug is up there.
Dude, you're not kidding. He's shooting 76.9%. He's 10 for 13. Cheddar. I thought you were exaggerating.
Dude just like he gets the ball if he's open. The ball is probably going to go in. And when it comes to efficiency, you can look up his field goal percentage. It's up there too. It's like around 75, 80% or something. But he has foul trouble issues. So getting Renew to attack him will be huge. Where to attack him will also be huge. It's going to come down to if Indiana can make Michigan be average on offense, Indiana will win the game. That's what it kind of comes down to. Because defensively, they're worst in the Big Ten in efficiency. They're either worst or second to last. It's not good at all. I think in the country, a few days ago, they were in the 170s. I'm not sure where they are now, but they give up a lot of points. And, I would not be surprised if Malik has a 30 ball based off of how they're able to guard. They just don't guard at all. And they just allow so many, and it's like easy baskets too. It's not like, I'll say Long Beach State was a game where these dudes were taking and making crazy shots. They were like 54 from the field, like 47 from 3. It was like they were hitting some crazy shots. In Atlantis, it was wide open dunks, wide open shots, wide open layups, wide open this, wide open that. Teams can kind of run whatever they want to run, So if Indiana is able to, if they're able to somewhat contain Doug, it's really hard to contain him all the way. But if you can somewhat contain him, I mean, I can see Indiana winning like 81-76 or something like that.
When was that?
That was Walker. Walker has no respect for me.
when you look at Michigan, they're shooting a lot of threes, they're making a lot of threes. What are they doing to get into those actions? How are they getting such open? Or are they open? Yeah,
Doug
that's what
slices up everyone. So
is it off ball screen actions and then he's basically making reads?
So like Doug always gets to that second level and guys help wide open. But not only they have 7 guys who can shoot the ball, they have 7 guys who can put the ball on the deck too. So it's, even if you have a secondary defender helping out on Doug, when they hit a wing, that wing, if they're not open, they will drive the ball as well. They'll get in the paint and they're going to either get a dunk or a wide open 3. And that's kind of how it's been the whole season. If they were like, man, I feel like, if they were just okay on defense, they'd probably be like 1 loss, if that, maybe undefeated. But they're like, I can't explain to you how bad their defense is. And I won't be shocked because when they played Memphis and went down like 17, 18 points, they went zone. That game completely flipped. I think they should go zone 80% of the time, honestly. I think they should do like the Merrimack zone. If you're not familiar with Merrimack College, they run this zone. It is one of the sexiest things. I want to break it down one day. It is so sexy. It goes from like a 1-3-1 to a 2-2-1 to a 2-3. Based, it's just babe.
Do you need a minute, Ant?
Yeah. Roz. What's a really good ballet? What's your favorite ballet? What's your favorite ballet?
My favorite ballet?
Yeah. Cinderella ballet. That's what it is. It is like it's like poetry is like, it's just, man, I'm telling you, it's one of the most beautiful things. And it's nice because guys know their job. And it's not like they want to be a top 25, top 30 defense. It's like, hey, we're just going to try to cover up as much as we can. If you make it, you do. If you don't, it's whatever. You know what I mean? If you're just okay. Michigan is one of those teams where if they're just okay, like imagine Iowa with Keegan Murray and all those guys. Imagine that team with like a 65 ranked defense.
I mean,
how good
would have been incredible.
Yeah, scoring 95 a game, allowing 60. Congrats. Good luck with that, right? So, Michigan is very similar where they have to find a way. They have to find a way to play defense. They have to find a way. And they give up a lot of twos. I don't even know what the numbers are, but the eye test tells me that they give up a lot of stuff around the basket. And it's like, it's not even like those, like, I got to try hard for this. It's like you're doing Mikins. You know those Mikin drills?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's like. You're doing Mikins, except Kel'el's going to be doing dunk. Malik, and one. Well, he's just lefty, all left because he doesn't go.
yeah, not a lot of right going on there.
Right.
I mean, and that does make it seem like a really interesting contrast in styles, because Indiana has been susceptible to the 3-point line, and Michigan's going to get their looks.
Michigan wants to play fast, too. Like, they want to play very fast. And I think that's part of it. They kind of want to get after it on defense. It's almost like they want you to hurry up and score so they can score. Again, it's very it's like opposite of what I expected this year from the team. It's exactly opposite. I expected a very good defensive team.
To you, is it more like personnel related or scheme related? Because I know with IU fans, a lot of people have gotten frustrated the way that they run their kind of pick and roll defense. They sit somebody at the nail, wings wide open for threes, time after time after time. So people are getting kind of frustrated with the scheme. For Michigan, is it more scheme or is it more just like dudes losing assignments and stuff like that?
Man, the switching is bad. I feel like over rotating. They don't know who to rotate on. The on-ball defense. Oh my goodness. Which I think is an Indiana. Which is an Indiana thing that I think helps Michigan is that Do you one-on-one? I don't think you're worried about Mbako taking you off the bounce. You're not worried about Malik taking you off the bounce. You're not worried about Ware taking you off the bounce. That's going to be two players, right? Can CJ take you off the bounce? One or two dribbles, then he's going to pull up, right? He's not going to the rim. Put this back in the fridge.
Okay.
This guy wants his Chobani.
Hey,
this message is from Chobani. Thank you. You got it. Eat your yogurt.
So yeah, I think that plays into Michigan's hands, where they have a big issue with blow-bys. They have a big issue with guys just being able to just catch and just go. But Indiana doesn't have a lot of that personnel. So I think that will be a plus for Michigan, just based off personnel-wise. But they haven't needed to do that, because they would just get the ball on the wing and they just give it to the elbow or give it to the post and just let the guys work down there.
One more question for you on this game before we just talk briefly about the Big Ten at large. In terms of other individual matchups, do you expect Kamwa and Malik to be matched up with each other? Because that seems like a pretty interesting contrast of styles.
For the most part, yes. I see that. They have a lot of forwards. So they have him. They have Cheddar. They have Yusuf Kayat. They've got they've got Terrace as well, where I wouldn't be shocked if they put Terrace on Renew and they will put someone like Kamwa on Ware. I could see that, because I think Malik is more offensively savvy than Ware right now. I think Ware gets his on, offensive boards, rim running, spot ups. Malik is going to give you a little more shake, right? And being mobile like that, Terrace is a mobile big. He's 6'11", long wingspan, like 7'4", 7'5", but he's mobile. And so I think someone like him could give Renew a little bit, but at the same time, if you throw like one or two screens for him, Malik's going to I'm telling you, you're going to see some of the easiest baskets you've ever seen in your life. Like, wow, he's open. Mike Woodson is really running. He's really running that offense to perfection. Like, no, Michigan just doesn't want to do it. So
well, good. So it should be a fun upscoring game or a high-scoring game as opposed to the
slog
we saw against
higher
Maryland.
scoring game. It's either going to be higher scoring or you're going to see like a nasty high shot attempt game. It's gonna be a high shot attempt game. Yeah, I'll say that much. We'll see we'll see if they go in. But you know what I'm feeling? I'm feeling you guys are gonna make at least 5 threes in this game.
Ooh, man, that would.
You're talking about a historical performance.
hey man,
jeez,
I'm feeling 5. Hey, look, last game before I said, hey, I think it was before. Yeah, it was before the Maryland game. I was like,
yep.
Feel it in my bones. This is going to be the first time that they hit back-to-back three-point attempts. And sure enough, it was Ware and Renew.
Well, they're just looking around like, if no one else is going to do it, fine. We'll step up and make them. Whatever.
Yeah. Would y'all hit like 3 threes or something?
Yes. 3 for 9.
All 3 in the first half, right?
Yep.
You're like, okay, that's enough, guys. We've emptied the
clip. With Martelli coaching, is there any difference than if Juwan was coaching, or is it pretty much what you'd expect game to game?
You're killing me. I'll say this. I did not know he was in Atlantis until I was watching the Memphis game, and I was like, they're feeding Terrace a lot. Like, they're feeding him the ball a lot right now. Like Michigan never fed the post like this. What's going on? Next thing I know, camera flashes to the bench. You see Juwan's face. I'm like, told on him. I knew something was off, bro. I knew something was off, man. I knew something was off. And sure enough, like, they play different. I can't put my finger on it, but it's a little bit different. The dynamic is really weird. It's probably weird for the kids. Like Juwan's never coached Trey. He never coached Olivier. Never coached. He never coached Namari. You know, so like he's getting these. Never coached GW, right? He's then all of a sudden he's like he's like what they said that he was doing. He was not advising. He was like
consulting.
Yeah, I remember. I forget what the word they like. Observing. He was observing. That he was observing, and like he's getting thrown out of games, and
it is a different dynamic. Not one I've seen too often.
It's a little bit different. It is a little bit different. But what I did like in the Oregon game, I did feel like Martelli had more of the pulse of the team. And I only say that because I didn't see a lot of things in the first half that they did in the Atlantis, they didn't do in Oregon. And just so happened, they never got down by 15 in the first half against Oregon. So they lost the Oregon game. Oregon's not a good team. At the same time, I think that was a positive step to where they need to get to. So, yeah.
When's Juwan taking over full time again?
I have no clue, but he's an assistant now, apparently. Yeah. He's an assistant now.
So weird.
It'll be the fastest progression you've ever seen to the head seat, from observer to assistant to head coach, all in a season.
Tell me about it.
All right, last couple questions for you, Ant, and thanks a lot for doing this. We appreciate your time.
Hey, not a problem. I can talk Big Ten basketball until I'm gone.
That's why we love having you on.
Man, I love Big Ten.
That's why we love it. Okay,
best conference, easily best conference.
It is. What are the Big Ten storylines that have really caught your eye? Like, what do you think is the most interesting thing that's outside of Indiana and Michigan, who we've already talked about? What's the most interesting thing to you in the conference right now?
Storylines. I'm looking at the updated net rankings now. How do y'all feel about being 137 in the net?
I mean,
I'm just paying no mind.
I'm of a few different minds of it. One, like, whatever. I mean, we haven't played very good against some bad teams, so it's fine. It's obviously early, and the net rankings are really noisy early on. There's always kind of crazy rankings. So I think, to me, any individual ranking doesn't mean a lot. What I do take from it, though, is that the Big Ten is not doing very well. And we have precious few weeks to pick up some good wins to make conference wins better. Because like Tony and I were talking about earlier, once you get into conference play, it's like your total piece of the net pie is set, and now you're just divvying it up among the conference foes.
Right.
So I'd rather have a bigger piece of the pie, but right now you got Purdue up there at 5, a few other teams in the 20s, and then some teams that are really far down there.
Yeah.
So that's concerning for the overall conference's strength.
So storyline, something that, I didn't really see coming into the year. Iowa's freshmen are really, really good. Are really, really good. They're probably the best freshman class right now out of any.
Iowa's. Wow.
Owen Freeman's tough.
Brock Harding. They got Baby Sanford. They got Dembele, they got Owen Freeman. Those 4 cats are really freaking good. Really good. Best freshman class. You throw rankings, all that BS out the window. Iowa has the best freshman class, and I don't think it's very close. Did not see that coming in. I did know about Brock Harding and Owen being from Moline and all that stuff, but Baby Sanford, Dembele, the way that they've come together, Fran kind of runs them in their own unit, which I find kind of weird to do. I don't like it, but it's fun, right? It's almost like Fab Five-ish, where they play all 5 freshmen at the same time. But they play those 4 at the same time alongside like Josh Dix or something weird, and they're fun. That's a fun group. That 2, Maryland. What are y'all doing? Jesus, you're from the DMV. You're out here. What is happening? That's probably the most annoying thing that I've seen, because like I like to go. I like to say crazy stuff before the preseasons of like thoughts that are deep in my head that I don't like to say. I said Ohio State, Wisconsin, or Maryland will finish. Well, 2 of these teams will finish in the top 4 in the league. Ohio State and Wisconsin are still holding on to that dream. Maryland just gave me the middle finger. I don't know what's going on there. You've returned everyone. You go out and get Jordan Geronimo. Once Akeem Hart leaves, they could have made a play for a much better dude. Honestly, they could have. I don't know why Dante Scott is there. They should have let him leave. Whatever's going on there, I don't know why they played Dante Scott. Scott needs to be like the backup 5. I think. I would say Minnesota. They're going to be really annoying in the Big Ten. That team, I mean, they've got Dawson Garcia is good. Cam Christie, man. Cam Christie's really talented. Max Christie's brother. Cam Christie's really good. 6'6" shooting guard. I like Pharrell Payne, but he's been injured. He's starting to come back.
Did I read a tweet from you right over the weekend? Did you say they have a top 7 roster in the Big Ten?
I think they have a top 7 roster in the Big Ten. I really think they do.
Wow.
But their rotations are so strange. Their rotations, I don't really get it. I think Johnson's gone after this year if they don't get to the NIT, and then Nico Medved's gonna come in.
Colorado State coach. Is he Colorado State?
Yeah. They just beat someone else, like beat the hell out of them. They beat the hell out of a real good team. They already beat Creighton. Who else did they beat? They beat
Colorado.
Did they beat Colorado?
Yep.
They beat someone else too, man. They beat someone else good. But they've been absolutely going to war.
They beat Washington yesterday.
Yep, they killed Washington, right?
Saturday, yeah. Or no, they beat them by 5. They had a big beat on them.
They beat them by 5, beat Colorado by 5. They beat Creighton by 21.
Creighton,
yeah. They've been going to work against teams. But I think those are the only real surprises, honestly. Those are the only real surprises. Michigan State will be all right, I think. I think when watching that Arizona game, I was like, okay, all right. I think they understand what they got to do now and who they need to play, their rotations. But, yeah, outside of that, everything's like nothing really too surprising. Lance Jones, I'm probably his biggest fan. I love Lance Jones for Purdue. Like, Purdue wins if Lance Jones doesn't get that call at half court. Honestly, like Boo Buie didn't have a field goal for 14 minutes up until that time. And then he fouls out with a minute left. Over the next 6 minutes, Boo Buie has 10 points. So, Lance Jones is huge. I think Lance Jones, the way that he alleviates pressure from Braden Smith is nuts. And I know Indiana fans are in here and they don't want to hear any of this. I get it. But just know that Lance Jones is probably one of the more underrated pickups in the entire country. Nothing flashy coming in, but right now, what he's doing with that team, so good, so good. But those Iowa freshmen, man, I'm really impressed. Whenever Iowa plays, even if I miss it, I hop on Synergy. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. and I watch them. And if I'm too tired, I just watch that lineup with them. That's it. I just watch that lineup. Just
the beauty of Synergy.
Yeah, man. Brock Harding, man, he reminds me of Jason Williams. Reminds me of Jay Will. Flashy, just enjoys the game. If he gets a jump shot.
White chocolate, Jason Williams, you mean?
White chocolate, Jason Williams. Yeah. White
Nice.
chocolate. A lot of fun. If you want to have fun, watch that team. Watch that freshman lineup because freshmen, they played with I don't know what the correct term is, but a blissful ignorance because they don't know any better. They're just out there hooping, right? That's them. Owen Freeman, man, he had one possession. He had 3 straight blocks on this team. And he's like sprinting down the court to get the ball back. It was just, man, I'm like smiling ear to ear the whole time. Dembele, he could shoot the ball. Like, oh my gosh, this dude's an athlete. Boom, boom, boom. And then next thing I know, he's in the corner. Whap. I'm like, okay. All right. Owen Freeman's going to be future All Big Ten player. Dembele probably is too. Brock Harding is going to be there for 9 years. And it's going to be they're just recouping. Man. But Ohio State's gotten a lot better. I thought that they would get better. They've I'm not going to say they've like exceeded expectations, but you know, shout out to Gale, man. Roddy Gale. You know, because Sensabaugh took a lot of his time most of last year. And when Roddy came in the postseason, he was doing his thing, and you saw it. You're like, if he holds on to this, he just stays there. Stay there. Hold on to this because you can have this next season. And that's what he's been for them. He's been so good. Bruce Stewart has been so good. Backcourt, right? Been so good. You know, Felix Akpar has been better. You know, that team's going to be okay. They're going to be okay. Oh, last thing. Connor Sidgian. What is going on with him in Wisconsin? Like, what is happening? And you know what? It could be that Blackwell took over his time. Klesman's been playing well. I don't know how they got AJ Storr to this day, but hey.
Dang, Sidgian's only playing 20% of minutes. I didn't realize.
Yeah,
dude. He's not playing at all.
Yeah.
Against Marquette,
17% from three-point range.
Yeah.
Wow.
Against Marquette, he played 3 minutes. He was -3 with like 1 turnover. I'm like, yo.
And then it was weird when Guard was asked about it. He's like, you'll have to ask him.
Yeah. Like, there's something going on.
Whoa.
There's something going on.
Jeez.
There's something happening, dog. There's something happening. And that was someone who like I expected to be like Tyler Hero light, you know, averaged like 12, 13 on that team.
Yeah.
But man, their guys have got better. Klesman's gotten better. Chucky Hepburn, I felt that he needed to facilitate more and be more of a 3rd, 4th option. And that's what he's doing. And man, and I'm a big Steven Crowell guy. I got a lot of hate, but look, Crowell is he's going to hit you with that above average every single game. And that consistency, it goes a long way, man.
It does. Well, Ant, we appreciate you being on here, man. Always love your insight. Tuesday night, Indiana, Michigan, 9 Eastern, Peacock. Are you going to be doing another halftime chilling report on
Depends what I'm doing. The wife is like 39 weeks, so at any point I could be going in. So if I disappear for a little bit, it's because I got stuff to do.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
I understand that. Yeah, congrats.
That'll be your second?
I appreciate it.
Number 2?
Yeah, no. That'll be number 3, number 2.
3. Okay.
So
very nice.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot of late night synergy, holding the baby on synergy, right?
Absolutely.
2 in the morning.
Film sessions and baby's gonna make noises. I'm not even gonna care.
That's all right.
Keep going. No, but
that's awesome, man.
I hope Derek Queen was watching that Indiana Maryland game. That's all I know.
I hope so too.
I hope Derek Queen was watching. He's from around here, and I don't know. I think it should be between Indiana and who's the other team? Kansas.
Kansas and
Houston. Supposed to be Maryland, but yeah, Kansas and Houston are the other ones in there.
Yeah, I don't think he should go to Maryland, bro. I don't think he should go to Maryland.
We agree.
Yeah. I don't think he should go to Maryland. I really don't.
They went 4 deep down there the day after trying to recoup. You know, hey, I know we just lost by 20 and looked horrible offensively and have all season, but we got our whole staff here for you, and you can help change all that.
Yeah,
it was it was not good.
Tail between the legs, like, look, bro, we're still here, man. I'm sorry. Like, we need you. But yo,
hey, Ant, where's the best place for people to support your work? Obviously, we recommend everybody go check out Hoosier Illustrated. Alec and the guys over there do an awesome job.
Yeah, HoosierIllustrated.com is dope. Outside of that, just my Twitter, and it's Ant Wright. And like that's pretty much like everything. Like I do have a Discord of like I don't know, like 800 people that people come to and kind of hang out.
I'm in there.
I got to do a much better job of interacting in there, but I feel like I'm slowly getting over there. So I do have a Discord, all that fun stuff. But yeah, just it's Ant Wright on Twitter, Blue Sky, whatever, anything. It's Ant Wright.
It's Ant Wright.
YouTube, it's Ant Wright as well. So
it's Ant Wright. Well, Ant, we appreciate you being here. Tony, thank you for taking time to do this as well. Thank you everybody for listening, and we will talk to you all on Tuesday night after IU Michigan. Keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.